All right, we've got our jars filled and now we're ready to put them into our canner so that we can process them. First thing I want to do is put a little bit of vinegar in our canner water, which we've had heating. You want to fill it about half full of water, and then we may need to add some more water once we get the jars in there. I want to put about 1/4 cup of vinegar in here, and that's to help prevent hard water deposits from sticking to the sides of the jars, and it helps clean up your canner. Makes a really easy cleaning process. All right, so I've moved my rack up so that it sets on the curved part of the handle. It makes it a little easier to put the jars into the canner. And then one by one, we'll just set them on the rack. And you want to leave a little bit of space in between the jars so that the water circulates around the jars completely. The rack inside the canner helps keep the jars off of the bottom of the canner. If you set them directly on the bottom without a rack, your jars could end up cracking, and then you'll have a large mess inside of your canner. Once you get the jars onto the rack, you can lower it back down into the water. We want to make sure that the water is completely covering the jars at least 1 to 2 inches. And you may have to add extra hot water to reach that level. So you need to have an extra pan or a tea kettle with some hot water boiling, and then pour it on top of the jars. You can use a ruler and measure how much how much water you have, and it needs to be at least 1 to 2 inches. After that, we're ready to put our lid on. And then it'll need to come back up to a full rolling boil. It just needs to bubble throughout the whole process. Once it gets to that point, we time this for 20 minutes. At this point, the timing is affected by your altitude of residence. You have to adjust for your altitude so that the product gets processed properly. So for boiling water bath canning, we add time to what the recipe calls for. So for our chili salsa recipe, for 0 to 1,000 feet, it calls for 15 minutes of processing time. Today, we are in Manhattan, Kansas, and we are just above 1,000 feet. So we have to add 5 minutes to the processing time. So our total time will be 20 minutes. Our water is just about to a boil. Actually, it is at a boil, so I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. And we'll let it process.